It's a matter of sporting choice in Flushing Meadows these 2 weeks here. Some people prefer to go that way. Some people prefer to go this way. Some people go both ways. We got the little furry ball, but then you got baseball. That's where we are tonight. At Citi Field in New York, it's the New York Mets playing the Florida Marlins. Mets baseball is presented in HD by IOTV. Get the best in HD free with IOTV. And a pleasant good evening, everybody, and welcome to Citi Field. I'm Gary Cohen. Keith Hernandez and Ron Darling join me in just a moment as the Mets play the fourth game of a five-game series against the Florida Marlins. The Mets won a doubleheader on Monday, lost 6-0 last night. Now they'll try and make it 3 out of 4 over Florida in this game. But these are not happy times for Jason Bay, and in his almost 2 years with the Mets, there have been a lot of down times for Jason. Maybe no more than right now, hoping to get a big finish to his season, but it is not going well right now. Another 0 for 4 last night, Keith. And what do you say about Jason at this point?
Well, it's been 2 years here for Jason, and he just can't get going, and I have run out of answers or even suggestions. Currently, right now, he's mired in a 2 for 45, and that's an 0.44 batting average, an 0 for 17 that right now. He's hitting .229 on the year with only 9 home runs and 43 RBIs. Now, this is a man that played at Boston that replaced Manny Ramirez, and that was a big shoes to fill, and he did so splendidly. Look at that year in 09. And now you can juxtapose the numbers here with the Mets and the slugging percentage under 400. It's just been a tough slog for him, and almost to a point now where you look at him, Gary, particularly last night, first time up, runners on base, line drive to second baseman, and you just see the shoulders. It's caught, shoulders slumped, eyes roll up. It's just snowballing on him, and I just think it's overwhelmed him. And
while Bay continues to struggle, the Mets starter tonight, Chris Capuano, coming off the best effort of his career in one of the best games that a Met has ever pitched.
You're so right, and I think it was really interesting to watch Capuano in this game. He really tried to do something completely different, and that is really not double think out there, think too much, and really let Josh Tolley call the game. And he executed his pitches, all three of them. His fastball was great, his slider was outstanding, something we haven't seen all year long, and then at the end was able to use even that fastball up in the strike zone. You talked about it being one of the greatest games of his career, one of the best in Mets history, and the Mets really needed it. They had some tough starting pitching before that.
On the other side for the Marlins tonight, Chris Volstead, a pitcher who has been a puzzlement for Florida.
He really has. First round pick in 2005. They thought when he first came up he had a winning record, he was going to really take off, but he's really gone backward, and they're looking for him to try to turn it around, to become that pitcher, that number 1 pick they thought he would be.
So the Mets and Marlins continue this long series at Citi Field. Keep the tennis on the other side. Baseball tonight. Mets and Marlins, all the action coming up on SNY. Is brought to you by IOTV. Get the best in HD free with IOTV. By Toshiba's Satellite Series, visit us.toshiba.com. By your Tri-State Ford dealers. By Parts Authority, the only name in auto parts you'll ever need to know. Visit them at partsauthority.com and become a VIP member today. By Lexus. And by Verizon, America's largest and most reliable wireless network. Follow the Mets with the MLB.com at Bat 11 app for your iPhone, iPad, Android, or BlackBerry. Check in using at Bat at Citi Field to receive special offers. Text at Bat to 31826 or visit Mets.com for details. There's your Dunkin' Donuts around the majors this afternoon. The Tigers scored 3 in the bottom of the 8th. Wilson Betterman with the big hit. They overcame the Royals 5-4. Detroit up by 6 now in the American League Central because the White Sox lost. The Twins scored 6 in the first. Jason Kubel and Luke Hughes with home runs as they beat Chicago 7-6. And the Giants finally won a game. Madison Bumgarner, a brilliant 8 innings, 2 hits, 11 strikeouts. A 4-0 win over the Cubs. The Giants started the day 6 games out in the West. Take me out to the ball game indeed. First pitch coming up from Citi Field in a moment. Ford. Mike Stanton again hits in the 3-hole, now tied for the National League lead in home runs with his opposite field Pepsi porch shot last night, the first one ever since Citi Field opened. As the Marlins snapped a losing streak last night.
What do you say about Chris Capuano? We said it all, coming off the best start in his career, going to try to double up here against a Marlins team that until last night has been struggling to score runs. Had a lot of help, though, in the 7th inning. Josh Tolley again catching Capuano.
And the Lexus Mets defense, and told you that the musical chairs with Tejada and Turner, they're going to go back and forth. Well, Tejada's back in the lineup tonight after missing last night's game. 1 error at second base in his 35 starts. We all know about his glove. He is quite a heady player. He adds defense to that middle infield when he's in there, along with Reyes.
Emilio Bonifacio set to lead things off for Florida. Bonifacio had a very odd night last night. He had 3 instances in which he was called out on strikes.
The little backdoor sliders. 100 strikeouts on the season. His on-base percentage is 358, 368. Yep. He's hitting 284. You would think a guy that plays the position in the game that he plays, he just put the ball in play, half of those strikeouts.
Almost looks like maybe he's looking for walks.
Yeah, maybe.
That's the impression you get. He's walked 51 times this year. So Bonifacio bats from his better side, the right side, against Capuano. And the first pitch of the night is up and away for ball 1. Now, Capuano threw 122 pitches in his last start, and they thought about giving him an extra day and pushing him back to tomorrow, but the decision was made to go with him on normal rest tonight.
I found that strange. I thought they would definitely give him the extra day. The only reason I say that, Gary, is you want to leave him on his day because obviously he's coming off his best start of his career. The reason I say that is they haven't pushed him that far all season long. He has been their 100-pitch pitcher guy. Once he gets to 100 pitches, he's coming out of the game. So that was the only reason I found strange that they did not give him the extra day.
Corners earned against Bonifacio, who leads the National League in infield hits, and he drives one to left field, and that'll go to the wall for an extra base hit. So Bonifacio starts the night with a leadoff double, his 20th double of the year.
Well, tried to come in with that fastball, Ron.
Yeah, middle of the plate.
If you recall his last start, that brilliant outing he had, he started the right-handers with that hard slider in.
So a runner at second with nobody out, an instant threat for the Marlins, and now Omar Infante the batter. Well, Capuano last start retired the first 12 batters. That ended in a hurry tonight. Now Infante takes low and in for ball 1, and even from the first pitch you can see that Capuano just doesn't have the same sharpness that he had on Friday.
He doesn't have that good fastball that he had in his last start yet, but you can work into it. It's only a few pitches into the game, and he does more on guile than power anyway.
Infante hits it hard. That'll chase Bonifacio to third. He'll be held up there, and the Marlins have runners at the corners with nobody out. So 2 bullets against Capuano to start the game.
Another fastball in, Ron, and it doesn't seem to be getting in on the hands of the hitters so far, the first 2 at least.
Baseball is such a strange game, right? I mean, you can be as dominant as any pitcher has ever been in one start, and then 5 days later all of a sudden it just doesn't work the same. So he's already given up as many hits as he did in 9 innings in his last start, and has yet to retire a batter. And now the very dangerous Mike Stanton.
I just had a hunch he wasn't going to go to a fastball there. And look how far Stanton is off the plate too. He is way off the plate. So strong. Look at that. Deep in the box. We see that so much. Way off the plate.
That stride, Keith, or when he gets in the batter's box, it's almost back to front. Back foot on the line and front foot 3/4 towards the front line.
Stanton now with 31 home runs, tied for the National League lead. He's had 5 of them against the Mets, and there have been several of them that have been very impressive, and last night certainly fell in that category.
I mean, I've never seen a right-handed hitter go where he went. There's 1 or 2 rows up there in that Pepsi porch.
Good changeup by Capuano, and it's 1-2.
That's stuff that Kingman did. You know, I mean, Kingman went up there in those years with the Mets, and boy, it was either a strikeout or a home run when Dave was hitting 220 and hitting the 30-plus home runs. He had some monster shots, but Kingman was a Deadpool hitter.
Capuano needing a strikeout, ahead on Stanton, who strikes out a lot, and he gets him with a changeup for the first out of the night. So after fanning 13 the last time around, he gets his first out of this game on a strikeout.
Good changeup there. He's shown already, Stanton, in his first at bat, that he is not picking up the changeup out of the hand of Capuano.
Let's see what Capuano does here if he just gets away from that, trying to come inside with the fastball.
There's Gabby Sanchez, 3 for 10 in this series, including a home run in the opening game on Monday. Sanchez, who had been struggling big time, generally can find solace when he faces the Mets. Now hitting .370 lifetime against Mets pitching. 5 for 12 against Capuano. First and third and 1 out.
That's inside.
And Capuano misses inside, 1-1.
Colbreth, fielding Colbreth, the umpire said that ball's inside.
Oh, you see him bring it back. It was.
Now on a pitch like that, if the catcher frames it differently and doesn't jerk it back in, can you get a strike on that pitch?
What I feel is this, Gary, it's a matter of trust. If you're a catcher that's not going to try to trick the umpire and you're going to hold the ball there, then when you hold it on an inside corner strike, that umpire's going to know, well, he never brings it in. That must be a strike. You follow me? You're not going to fool an umpire bringing it back in. You're not. So you might as well just better, catch a ball. It's 2 inches outside, catch it and get rid of it fast. But that pitch, it's a strike. Hold it there for him to look.
2-2 now to Sanchez.
What I would like, though, when you have a veteran catcher, and Josh is not where he can do that, if a ball is called the ball inside and you catch it, you can hold it there for just 1 beat and throw it back to the pitcher and say, field him. That's a good pitch. We got to have that pitch. That takes a veteran catcher to do that, though.
Now it's 2-2 to Gabby Sanchez. Totally setting up inside, and Capuano misses in there, and it's 3-2. But generally the practice of moving the glove after catching the ball, that's not going to sell a strike to an umpire, is it?
I don't think it's going to sell a strike to a Little League umpire, to be honest with you. No offense to Little League umpires. So
I was watching some of those games. Yeah, they can do it.
Let's see if they send Infante here to try and stay out of the double play. 3-2 to Sanchez.
I don't think they'll send him. Too good a move to first base, Capuano.
Yep, they did. And it's low ball 4, and now the bases are loaded. So Capuano, who did not walk a batter in his last start against the Braves, walks a man in the first inning. And so the bases are loaded with 1 out, and Jose Lopez is hitting 5th in the order for Florida. Lopez getting the start at third base today after Greg Dobbs played the first 3 games of the series. Lopez released by Colorado back in June and signed by the Marlins a couple of days later. With a chance here in the first inning. Bonifacio at third, Infante at second, Sanchez at first, and 1 out. Lopez is hitting just .212 for the year. His on-base percentage is .239. And I can't think of a position player in the National League with a lower on-base percentage than that.
This guy's just a free swinger. He's one of those guys. He reminds me of Uribe from the Los Angeles Dodgers. He's a guy that you can kind of pitch one way, and he is hacking.
He had a couple of good years in Seattle, and it looked like he was heading in the right direction. But clearly people have learned not to throw him a strike, and Capuano's done that on the first 2 pitches and gotten 2 strikes.
Just wondering why would you put a guy hitting .212 who's part-time playing in the 5th position in your lineup?
Falling in love with that righty-lefty matchup.
Except that Lopez is hitting .208 against lefties.
I'd rather have Cameron in the 5th spot if you want to do the lefty-righty.
Yeah.
I mean, he had 5 straight years in Seattle, Lopez did, where he hit 20 or more home runs.
Give him another changeup in the dirt. He's not going to be able to stop the swing. Oh, there you go. He did.
Ball and 2 strikes.
By the way, if you wanted to put a play on here, Capuano, when he's in the stretch, Bonifacio is really testing him. Step off, throw to David Wright, and it's an easy pickoff. Love those little dancing runners on third base. Watch how far he gets. All David would have to do, timing play, and go sit down.
Now the 1-2. Down to third, past the diving right. A base hit for Lopez. Bonifacio is in. Infante scores, and it's 2-0 Florida. Now David was playing toward the line and couldn't get to his left to flag down that ground ball. And Lopez has a 2-run single.
And I think playing the line because of the changeup, and not really that much. And that was a slider right there, Ronnie.
Yes,
I'm a little bit surprised.
So the Marlins played a pair, still only one out, and 2 aboard for Logan Morrison. So Capuano, after living on top of the world 5 days ago, just trying to get out of the first inning. Morrison at 246, 2 for 11 in this series.
Morrison stays in on left-handers. You know, has the power numbers, 18 home runs, not the average isn't there. He's a young hitter. But he does stay in on lefties. He's a dead low ball hitter. He burned Burdak last night on a slider between first and second that drove in a run late on a down slider.
Just to put in perspective what Capuano did his last start, 13 strikeouts and no walks. His first man pitcher in 20 years to do that. 13 strikeouts without walking batter since David Cohn did it in 1991. And then throw in the fact that he had a 2-hit shutout. Well, there's really only been one game in Mets history other than Capuano's where a pitcher has thrown a shutout, allowed 2 hits or less, struck out as many as 10 and not walked about it. And that was Tom Seaver in his almost perfect game against the Cubs back in '69.
The imperfect game, as you guys call it.
The Jimmy Qualls game. And so Capuano put himself into some awfully rare company. And I don't know, I mean, if you ever had a transcendent game like that, Ronnie, but, you know, Chris has been a good pitcher in the major leagues for a few years now, but when you have a day where everything comes together like that, when you go to the mound the next time, are you thinking, I can do it again?
No, I mean, he shouldn't think that way. He's not a power pitcher. Yes, he's got a lot of strikeouts this year. Should never think that way. His way of pitching is to keep the ball down, throw strikes, have the people put it in play. He's not been able to do that here in the first inning behind almost every hitter.
He's already thrown 24 pitches in the inning. He's given up 3 hits and a walk. Now behind 3-1, and Morrison hits one deep to center field, chasing Pagan back. He'll have room, and that's the second out. Sanchez tags and goes to third. So Capuano using the big part of the ballpark and getting Morrison out. Now there are 2 out in the inning.
I know what you're saying, though, Gary. You know, you have one of those games, and it's almost like, I don't know, you trying to. It's like a hitter that is not a home run hitter hitting home runs, and you go into the next game and hit a couple of pop-ups. You go, what am I thinking? Come on, back with the line drives and ground balls.
Here's Mike Cameron, who's 4 for 9 in this series. He's hitting just 191 for the year. Cameron, who started his year in Boston, was let go and signed by the Marlins. Sanchez at third, Lopez at first with 2 down. That last start, Terry Collins enabled him to finish the game. Ground ball toward the middle, flashing over Reyes, makes the backhand flip to Tejada just in time. That saves a run and ends the inning. Nicely done by Reyes to get Capuano through. The Marlins scored 2, would have been 3 if Reyes doesn't get this ball to Tejada on time. Marlins tonight, brought to you by Geico. A little change with David Wright moved back to the cleanup spot, and Lucas Duda, for the first time in his career, batting third. Terry Collins was asked why. He said, why not? But he also said that when David got hot coming off the disabled list, he was hitting cleanup, so he figured he'd try that again. Chris Volstead on the mound for the Marlins tonight.
He's lost his last 3 starts. His last start was not bad, though. 6 innings, 5 hits, 3 earned runs with that loss. You know, he's a #1 pick, a guy that from 2005, a guy that they thought when he came up in 2008 he went 6-4, low ERA. But 2 years ago gave up 29 home runs. That's a lot for a sinking ball pitcher.
0-2 to Reyes. Jose 2 for 8 in this series, coming off the disabled list. Hitting .335 beginning the day, leading the National League batting race by 4 points over Ryan Braun. Ruben Tejada on deck, and then Lucas Duda. So I have to say Miguel Tejada. Miguel Tejada was DFA'd by the Giants today, and so was Aaron Rowand.
Wow.
So they are shifting their roster around 6 games back. Strike 3 called. Reyes takes one at the knees that Colbreth deemed a strike. Toughest man to strike out in the National League goes away shaking his head.
Well, there's a case of the catcher caught the ball below the strike zone, brought it up, and Colbreth called it a strike. Borderline, but close.
Can I ask this question? Don't promise not to call me stupid.
You're not stupid.
What does DFA mean?
Designated for assignment.
Ah.
And I'm glad you asked the question, because probably 90% of the people listening were asking the same question. We're using, terminology here.
I don't know why everyone calls you dumb, Garn.
Ruben Tejada 2 for 8 in this series, and since being recalled when Reyes got hurt, he's hitting .364. Made to look bad on that breaking ball, and it's 0-2. Tejada at .282 on the season, and there's Duda hitting third for the first time in his career, waiting on deck.
If those 2 players were designated for assignment, who replaced them on the roster?
Brought up a couple of minor leaguers.
Very interesting.
The Giants have struggled so badly offensively that they had to make some kind of a change.
Well, with the rosters expanding tomorrow, to me that is an arrow through the heart, saying, you know what, you guys have not performed, and you haven't performed so poorly that we're going to let these 2 guys go.
Tejada down looking, so Volstead with back-to-back call third strikes. Well, also any potential playoff team has got to set their roster by midnight tonight. Now you can make some changes based on players on the disabled list, but basically you have to set your roster for what it's going to be in the postseason.
And we'll take a quick look, Garrett, at the Coors Light Marlin defense and the assists from Stanton. We've seen his arm in display twice in this series so far. He's got a good arm. He's quite a talented young man.
Here's Duda, 3 for 12 in this series. 3 hits in the first game on Monday night. Has had 2 hitless games since. By the way, the Giants activated Pat Burrell off the disabled list. That was one move. But they also called up a rookie, Brett Hill, who's a right-hand batting first baseman. So the Tejada move, I think, was a long time in coming. But the Rowan move, I think, is a little surprising, especially with Nate Shearholtz out. It's not like they have a whole bunch of outfielders who can run around out there.
Or good defensive outfielders, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, Burrell, who can't play the field at all at this point in his career. 2-1 to Duda.
How old is Burrell now?
34, maybe?
34.
Oh, that's right. He came out of college. That's the big difference for me, because back in my time, they wanted guys out of high school. They kind of didn't look to colleges. So if someone was up early, he was usually 20, 21. Now out of college, they're up a lot older.
Lined right at Bonifacio, and Duda's retired. 1-2-3 inning for Volstead. After 1 at Citi Field, 2-0 Fish. Modell's. The Modell Sporting Goods back to school sale is going on now with the lowest prices of the season. Backpacks, footwear, and apparel. When you've got to save for back to school, you got to go to Moe's. John Buck leads off the second inning for Florida. Buck is 1 for 6 in this series, but might have had the most important at bat in last night's game, drawing a walk from Mike Pelfrey that set up a 5-run inning for Florida. We talked a lot about the Mets bunt defense and what went wrong on it and why the bunt by Vasquez set up the big inning, but without the walk to Buck, there's no bunt.
Volstead is probably out of the ball game, in fact.
And you wonder whether the walk to Buck was residue of the grand slam by Buck on opening day.
Well, I think Pelf was surely trying to keep that ball down. He just missed with that fastball away and down to Buck.
0-2 from Capuano. That's on the inside corner. Got the fastball on the edge there, and that's the second strikeout for Chris.
Well, that is the same pitch that was called the ball before, but now Culberth opening up that strike zone a little bit. What do you think, Keith?
That's too close to take. Yeah. Missed. I thought the other one was a little more inside, but that one just missed by an inch, and he got the call.
So here's the pitcher, Volstead. 7 hits this year. He's batting 200 with a couple of RBIs. Got a big strike zone.
That's right. 6'7" tall.
And I just think he's one of those guys that Volstead had maybe called up too early.
That's a good point, Keith.
You know, he was in the big leagues at an awful young age, had success the first year, the big curveball. You know, you start telling these young kids in this level, Ronnie, he's drafted out of high school, #1,
yeah.
and you're going to start telling a kid that's 20 years old to throw a 2-0 changeup with men on base when they're 20, 21 years old. I don't think it happens.
It's not going to happen.
You know, that's where you get it in the minor leagues. But they're rushed up today, particularly pitchers.
He's from your part of the world, Palm Beach Gardens, Florida.
Yes, he is. Right down the road. There's a big mall there.
Yes, there is. What's your favorite store in that mall?
It's not a store.
1-2 now. And Volstead takes it low. Well, Volstead was the number 16 pick in the 2005 draft. The 9th pick in that draft was Mike Pelfrey. That's a pretty good first round. The first pick was Justin Upton. The 4th pick was Ryan Zimmerman. The 5th was Ryan Braun.
Wow. So Volstead came up in 2007. It's only a couple of years. Pelfrey saw some time in 06, didn't he?
Well, he was a college pitcher, of course, and Volstead came out of high school. Also in that first round in 05, Ricky Romero, Troy Tulowitzki, Andrew McCutcheon, Jay Bruce, Jacoby Ellsbury.
Wow.
Pretty good first round.
Those first rounders, usually the players about 80-85% of the time turn out to be major leaguers. The pitchers don't always tend to be.
As much because of injury as anything else. And that's why you have to stockpile young pitchers in order to get the payoff, because you're not going to have 100% of them develop. 2-2 from Capuano, and now he's gone full to the opposing pitcher, who's given him quite a battle for his money.
My first instructional league with the Texas Rangers, we had a pitcher who was a #1 pick. I won't say his name. And they put him on another field with the batting cage to work on throwing his curveball. Could he throw it in the batting cage? You know the batting cage where he sit in? He very rarely could throw the ball close to anywhere near the plate. So they had him on another field by himself, no catcher, off the mound trying to throw his curveball into that, what would it be? 10 by 10? 16 by 15?
Was he able to get it inside the batting cage?
Occasionally.
That's bad.
I've got a better story.
10th pitch of the at bat coming to Volstead, and he lifts one down the right field side foul. That'll go out of play.
Marty Demerit grew up in my neighborhood. We both got drafted by the Cardinals. We flew in the same flight back to spring training. We were 18 years old out of high school. He was from South San Francisco. Big red-headed kid. You get your first it's your first game where you're pitching against another team, and it was in spring training, inter squad game. First pitch he threw was a curveball, threw it over the backstop. I'm not making it up. I was stunned.
It's a Len Barker move.
That's right.
What was the second pitch?
Well, he lowered his sights. You know what I did my first at bat when I had to face a live pitcher? I was 18. I thought everybody threw through a brick wall. Took my first swing. Pitch was halfway home. I already was following through. I made a serious adjustment the next time.
This is the 12th pitch from Capuano to Volstead, and it's lined for a base hit. Well, that's as good an at bat as you're going to see for a pitcher all year. 12 pitches, and he gets his 8th hit of the year. Now the Mets have to hope he's worn out.
Yeah, right. It's funny, when he got to first, Evans was laughing at him and he said ouch, because he got jammed a little bit on that pitch by Capuano.
So now Bonifacio, who led off the game with a hard hit double to left.
Well, the IOTV pitch differential, and that's why you got jammed, Ronnie. That pitch was about 6 inches inside.
Capuano falls behind Bonifacio 2-0. With Omar Infante waiting on deck. And Volstead almost got himself picked off.
Well,
surprise.
Pay attention. Oh, you're looking home too.
Oh, he's going to have to take that little league lead. Just keep his foot on the base.
He almost pulled a George Foster there.
And look how close he is now. I always go back to Andrew Jones when the Mets played the Braves in the League Championship Series in '99 and Kenny Rogers was pitching for the Mets. Andrew stood with his foot on the base. He would not take a lead against Kenny Rogers for fear of being picked off.
That's inside.
3-1 now to Bonifacio. Of course,
Andrew had the last say in that series, didn't he?
Did. Well, he did some watching, some creative watching. Ball 4. Season over.
I mentioned George Foster, and that Ricky Horton had a great move for the Cardinals. We were in St. Louis. George took his lead and looked home and never moved. And Jack Clark had the ball. They had to go out to touch him. Remember that run?
Yes.
Sorry, George. It happens to the best of us.
3-2 to Bonifacio. Volstead is not going anywhere. Emilio Bonifacio filling in at shortstop these days for Hanley Ramirez. Marlins were hoping to have Hanley back by the end of the week, but he came out of a rehab game last night suffering discomfort in his shoulder. Swing and a miss as Capuano strikes out Bonifacio for the second out. And the Marlins fear that it may be serious and that Hanley may be done for the year.
Well,
which is not going to make any difference in,
standings or anything like that.
But, Hanley was not having a good year. Would have certainly liked to have had a strong finish going into next year. He is, the player that they've built this team around, for better or for worse. Here's Infante taking wide for ball one.
Well, he's a guy that I think I would shut him down, Gary. Just don't want to take another chance that you have a setback, and start his off-season conditioning program right away. He could get a little stronger, a little leaner.
Question I think that the Marlins are going to have to answer with Hanley, assuming that they decide to hang on to him, is whether he's got a long-term future at shortstop.
Yeah. He's got to cut down that swing. He got a real long with his swing after he won that batting title.
It's interesting how poorly they played without Ramirez, and I think there's some extenuating circumstances to that too, but nonetheless, he's obviously an enormous piece of their offense.
Without Ugla and Coughlin sent down, this is not the lineup it used to be. Cantu is gone. He was always a dangerous hitter.
In five, one deep to left. Back goes Bay to the track. It's over his head and short hops the wall. Volstead lumbers into third. He'll have to stop there. Even with 2 out, Volstead couldn't score from first. Infante has a double.
Well, you got to be mighty slow not to score with 2 outs on a ball hit into the gap in this ballpark. Infante are all over that pitch, and this had plenty of air time too. Nicely played off the ball wall by Bay.
Terry Collins paying a rare visit to the mound. You got Stanton coming up, Sanchez on deck, first base open, so pick your poison.
I think they'll pitch to him only because of how Stanton looked in that first at bat. He looked very vulnerable to the changeup. If I were Stanton, I'd take the first pitch. Try to get in his count.
So already down 2-0. Capuano with a big out to get. And there's the changeup to start.
Well, this was last night on a high slider, and we have not seen that from a right-hand hitter.
First time ever.
Stanton's a high ball hitter. You got to keep the ball down.
Nothing but changeups. And Capuano hit 0-2.
He kept that one away though, because that ball was up. That changeup. Stanton has proved early in his career that he's a pretty decent breaking ball hitter.
He is so far from the plate, though. My gosh, he's in Cleon Jones territory.
George Hendrick territory.
Ground ball right at Reyes, and so Capuano gets the big out to get out of another difficult inning. 2 left in scoring position, still 2-0 Florida. All Mets games on SNY are available in HD, presented by IOTV, and you can listen to every Mets game on Sports Radio 66 WFAN. We turn the page to September tomorrow, but still the Marlins. Miguel Batista will make his Mets debut tomorrow night against Florida. Then it's off to Washington and Florida for a 6-game road trip before the Mets come back to play the makeup doubleheader with the Braves and then 3 with the Cubs on the next homestand. And the Nats come in after that, and we were trying to figure whether the Mets would run into Strasburg in that series against Washington here, because Strasburg makes his first start Tuesday against the Dodgers. If they keep him on regular rest, that means he'd pitch Sunday and miss the Mets series. If they give him an extra day, then he would pitch here at Citi Field. David Wright leads off the home second and bangs one on the ground behind the bag at third. Lopez with a long throw to make, and just in time to get right.
I thought he had it. I thought he beat it.
I did too. Took his time, Lopez. Pat in the glove, a couple style points.
Yep. Oh, close. May have had it right.
Corey Blazer, the young first base umpire, and it's just about a tie.
That is as close as it gets. Boy, tie base goes to the runner. Tough call. Wow.
No, Wright didn't like it. Mookie Wilson said a few things to Blazer, but Terry Collins stayed in the dugout. 1 out and nobody on. Now Angel Pagan, and Angel takes a strike. Angel just 1 for 12 in this series at .263 for the year. By the way, we were talking before about the Giants shaking up their roster going into September as Pagan bounces one for Infante. Today is the last day for teams to import players from other organizations and have them eligible for the postseason. Texas picked up a couple of pieces. Mike Gonzalez, the rock and rolling left-hander from Baltimore, and Matt Trainer, backup catcher from Kansas City. The Braves got Matt Diaz back from the Pirates, and the Phillies got John Bowker from the Pirates. I'm not sure where he fits in.
Well, you covet what you know well. Diaz back to Atlanta. I believe Trainer was with Texas Rangers for a season.
Of course, Trainer spent a long time with the Marlins.
Refresh my memory on Balcourt.
Bowker, a first baseman, outfielder, played a little for the Giants a few years ago.
Lefty righty?
I think left-handed hitter.
Slow ground ball, charging Lopez, bare hand play. Bay's got himself a hit. Jason Bay snaps out of an 0 for 17 slump with an infield single.
Well, Lopez playing way back has no chance to throw out Bay, who always hustles down the line. And where yesterday Jason, with men on base, hit a line drive his first at bat right at the second baseman, well, he gets a bleeder here. I'm sure he'd like to switch. You always want the one with the men on base.
Just his third hit in his last 46 at bats. So the Mets have their first base runner of the night against Volstead, and now Nick Evans. Nick took an 0 for last night, but he had been red hot before that. Over the last 7 games, hitting .423. Getting a chance to play every day at first base right now. It's sharply, but right at the shortstop, and Bonifacio makes the play to end the inning. Mets get their first hit and leave one after 2. It's 2-0 Florida. Capuano, who has had a slog through the first 2 innings. Marlins have left 4 runners on base in the first 2 innings. Scored 2 runs on 5 hits. Sanchez drew a walk in the opening inning. And a strike as he went around, 0-1. By the way, we had change in the umpiring rotation. That is Mike Estabrook umpiring at first base. Corey Blazer, who he identified before, is at second tonight. Because of the length of this series and the doubleheader, they've actually had 5 umpires in this series.
So Adrian Johnson's held himself a nice Navy steak right now.
It's like volleyball. He rotated out. 2 balls and a strike to Sanchez. Jose Lopez on deck, and then Logan Morrison here in the 3rd. He has a strike with a fastball. 2-2. And whereas Capuano was throwing 90-91 last Friday, he's been 86-88 tonight. And you know, you don't know for sure, but you'd think that the 122 pitches have to have had some kind of an impact. Driven to right. Duda with some ground to cover. Gets over there. 1 away. So 1 out and nobody on. Jose Lopez coming up. So let's check in with Kevin Burkhardt outside the Verizon studios. Kevin?
Guys, it is our favorite moment on the homestand. The Verizon Live Ask the Booth. We find a fan. They ask you a question. We have it's not necessarily a Mets question, but I thought it was a good question. Jess is here from Westchester. Jess, what do you have for the guys?
Hi, guys. I was just wondering if any of you had a broadcasting idol growing up that led you to your career today.
Guys,
Gary?
take it away.
Take it away, Gary.
Well, my broadcasting idol was Marv Albert, which is probably true of every kid growing up in the 60s and 70s in New York who became a sportscaster. I mean, Marv was the guy. He was doing the Knicks and Rangers on radio when I was first starting to listen, and then he, of course, moved on to more national events. But that was my guy. He was just so honest and so descriptive and so funny and just perfect. Lopez drills one down the left field line. Foul. How about you guys?
Well, I never really had any intention of being an announcer. I wanted to be a ball player. So I was always partial to my guys growing up, and that was Lon Simmons and Russ Hodges, who came with the Giants. Russ Hodges, of course, with the great call on the Bobby Thompson home run. The Giants win the pennant. Well, I grew up with Russ Hodges and Lon Simmons, who also did the 49er football games, was the play-by-play radio for the 49ers. But those two were such a great team together because they always talked about what they were going to do after a game. They told you about, so I always.
So you have been influenced.
I was influenced by them. I always found it interesting.
Lopez hits one out to left. Bay back all the way to the wall, and it's off the fence. Pagan backing up nicely gets there and holds Lopez to a double. So Lopez, who drove in the 2 runs with the first inning single, now hits one off the Great Wall of Flushing.
Well, home run in most any ballpark. Bay just runs out of room. Nicely backed up by Pagan. Ronnie, what about you?
Well, it was interesting growing up where I grew up. On the radio for the Red Sox when I was real young was Kirk Gowdy. The basketball was Johnny Most. So I don't know if anyone could ever copy him with the real gravelly voice. We watched a lot of Bruins on those days, Fred Pearsall and the gang. But I was always really attracted to, but I'd like to listen to the older players that my dad liked, who would go into the booth and talk about how football or hockey or baseball used to be. So that was always fun for me to listen to. But I didn't really. I think we're all influenced by so many of the people that we've heard. We don't even know that we're influenced as much.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because, I spent obviously an enormous part of my childhood listening to Bob Murphy and Lindsey Nelson and Ralph Kiner. And when I first started working with Murph, I realized that there were things that I said and ways that I said them that were completely influenced by Murph, and I had no idea until I sat next to him and worked with him on a day-to-day basis, and I had to actually stop using certain terminology because I didn't want to sound like I was trying to copy him. Very, very interesting to me because you're right. It's totally unnoticed.
Yes. It's the purest form of flattery, though, isn't it? You know, I think that, you know, when Keith and I were players, although we really didn't listen as much, you know, Timmy McCarver did our games. He's considered one of the greatest ever guys to work in this industry, and you had to be influenced by his analysis of a game. It was deeper than you had heard other announcers.
2-0 to Morrison, and he lifts one to center, and Pagan has it lined up. Lopez tags, heads for third. Now there are 2 out. So Morrison flies to center for the second time. Now Mike Cameron will bat with 2 out and a runner at third.
And I still think, you know, to this day, because we're lucky enough to still work with him, I think Ralph still influences us because he has such a lightness and a joy when he sits here in between us that, you know, that I guess when you're going through a long season and you start to feel a little sorry for yourself, Ralph comes in and you go, you know what? Don't feel so bad. It's a pretty amazing job.
Well, I think a lot of time, Gary, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's just you get the right mix of personalities in the booth. You know, Summerall and Tom Brookshire, I thought was a terrific football broadcast. You know,
Jack Buck and Hank Stram.
Oh, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I stopped listening to the TV broadcast on Monday Night Football.
And they were doing the radio.
Yep. Hank Stram was a piece of work.
Oh, right.
Well, like in baseball, how about you know, Harry Kalas and Richie Ashburn and the chemistry that they had with the Phillies for all those years. Cameron bangs one down to third, and Capuano strands another runner. That's 5 in the first 3 innings. It's been a rough go for him, but he's keeping his team in the game. 2-0 Florida in the third. There are the real legends.
That's a nice shot right there. Murph, Lindsay, and Ralph.
And what was amazing, of course, about those 3 is that they did all of the radio and TV every game for 17 years.
Wow.
I mean, no, you know, 2 guys on the radio, 3 guys on TV. No, it was the 3 of them. One would be on radio, and the other 2 would be on TV every game, and they'd rotate as the game went along. And then there were those football Saturdays in September when Lindsay would go to the Notre Dame games, and it would be just Bob and Ralph, and one would do radio, one would TV, and they'd switch, you know, every 3 innings. Craziness.
Was it good?
It was fantastic.
So there was basically a Vin Scully broadcast, just one in the booth when Lindsay was gone.
Yeah. Wow. You know, and a lot of teams in those days did one man, especially on radio, one man booths. But it, you know, the broadcasting world has changed.
Well, it had to be that way in San Francisco then, because if Lon Simmons would have gone done the 49ers on Sunday, then Russ Hodges would have had it along. I remember the Bergie commercials. Go have a Bergie.
I mean, they could have brought in a substitute, right? They could have brought in, you know, another guy to fill in, but they never did. Infante throws out totally one away.
You know, I have a different perspective, Keith. You love Lon Simmons listening to him. He was the A's announcer when I was traded there. So I got to know him.
Good man.
Just one of the greatest. You know, he has this great love for Hawaii, so we'd always talk about that. And just fantastic gentleman. Funny, too.
Now Capuano, 4 hits on the year. Lifetime 142 hitter, and he takes a strike. Well, this is a better looking Volstead than the version we saw the last time the Mets faced him 5 weeks ago.
Throwing more fastballs. And more strikes.
That's roughed him up in that game. He gave up 8 hits and 3 walks in 5 innings and was sent to the minors after that start. Since being called back, he's made 3 starts, lost them all. But he's in command tonight as Capuano takes a very weak cut and goes down on strikes. The 3rd strikeout for Volstead.
He's a pitcher. He's a pretty good curve.
So 2 out and nobody on. Now Jose Reyes with his 2nd turn. Reyes was called out on a borderline strike his first time up.
And last night in Milwaukee, Ryan Braun, his close competitor, took a 0 for 4 caller. So his average dropped to 331 coming into tonight's action. So Jose starts the day with a 3-point lead over Ryan Braun for the National League batting crown.
Jose 2 for 9 since returning from the disabled list.
And Gary, as you stated, no Met has ever won a batting title or an MVP.
Volstead with time to recover and makes the play on Reyes to end the inning. So Volstead gets the Mets out 1-2-3. After 3 at Citi Field, it's 2-0 Florida. Football, plus a preview of tomorrow's Mets-Marlins series finale with live reports and exclusive interviews in the Wheelhouse, presented by Pepsi, part of the New York Sports Local, tomorrow at 5:30 on SNY.
It was an inside joke, folks.
What was?
Our laughter.
John Buck leads off the 4th inning and takes a strike. I didn't hear anything funny. It's Buck, then Volstead and Bonifacio for the Marlins in the 4th. Capuano has given up an extra base hit in every inning. Was tagged for a couple of runs in the 1st, limited the damage there, got out of a couple of jams in the 2nd and 3rd, and kept it a 2-0 game. Backdoor breaking ball misses, 1-2.
And you can see Buck's bat, a tape around the knob. I think, and he also puts his baby finger down over the knob, if you notice. So he's probably got that tape there because he probably gets a callus right where the base of his baby finger.
Now, why do people put their finger below the knob of the bat?
It's almost, you want the bat a little longer, obviously, and they feel they can get more whip. I'm not really the one to tell you because I always choked up. I choked up a half inch.
Buck strikes out for the 2nd time, the 4th for Capuano. Just seems to me like it would be awkward to have your pinky below the knob.
I did it on changeup pitchers. I remember when Bert Hooton was pitching for the Dodgers, and Bert Hooton came out of Texas, if you recall, and set the world on fire with the Cubs. First guy to have enough of a curveball. Remember, Ronnie?
Yep.
And it was a new pitch, and no one caught on to it. But Bert threw right over the top, straight fastball, and wasn't really overpowering. And you caught on to him. Well, he played with Andy Messersmith.
Tejada moves over and throws out the slow-footed Volstead for the 2nd out.
And then Messersmith taught him the changeup, I believe. And he had a good one. And it fooled guys once through the league, including myself. I was with the Cardinals. So I got up one time in Dodger Stadium. I had the bases loaded late in the game, 1-run game, tie game, and I just knew he was going to throw me that changeup because he got me out the first 2 times with it. So I went down my baby finger on the knob to get a longer bat, and sure enough, it threw me a changeup, and I hit a line drive to right field and got the tying run in or whatever. It didn't really matter. But that was an adjustment that I made, probably one of the few times that I went down on a knob longer. I always choked up a half inch.
Think about it. It came into play last night in the Red Sox-Yankee game. Curtis Granderson in the 1st inning got hit. Ed Rapuano, the home plate umpire, said it hit the knob of the bat. But with the players holding on the bottom of the bat, it can hit not only the knob but also your hand at the same time.
Bonifacio has doubled and scored and struck out tonight, 1 for 2. Infante on deck. Little tapper past the mound. Tough play for Tejada on a hop. Got him! Outstanding play by Tejada. Nice scoop by Evans. And Capuano has his first 1-2-3 inning. Have to hurry to get Bonifacio and keep it a 2-0 game in the 4th. Let's check in with Kevin, who's live from the Acela Club.
You guys, I was talking to Ruben today about what got him into baseball and what it was like playing in Panama when he was younger. And he said, well, it was my dad. You know, he was an amateur ball player in Panama, and he was a pitcher, and he taught me how to pitch and said, I had a splitter, I had a fastball, a curveball, pretty good splitter too. And I looked at his fingers. He does have really long fingers, so you could see it. And he said he threw in the mid-'80s, and he was scouted by Ismael Cruz in the Mets, and he also was a shortstop as well. I said, well, what happened to pitching? Was it ever discussed? He said, yeah, that ended when the Mets came and signed me. And you know, at that time too, it was, you know, with Mariano on the Yankees, there was so much Yankee stuff there that, you know, I watched Jeter, and shortstop was the way to go. But I guess if they ever get in a pinch, you know, Todd Zeal's not around, maybe Ruben Tejada can go on and pitch you that ninth inning, guys.
Kevin, that's some great service you're getting at the Acela Club.
I'm going to reach over and eat some salami in a moment here from these folks. I don't think they mind if they do tough, really.
You know, the key is always that they keep your water glass filled, and clearly that's happening.
It's fantastic. Coffee, soda, juice, you name it.
Infante throws that Tejada for the first out. Maybe we'll see Ruben on the mound. It'll blow out one of these days.
Well, I'll tell you, when the players come out early, Gary, before batting practice, they're all getting loose. They throw it back to each other, whatever. You'll always see Tejada and Turner pretending that they're pitching to each other back and forth. It's pretty fun to watch.
Used to be, you'd see guys warming up like that before the game. They'd throw knuckleballs to each other.
That's right.
I don't know if guys do that anymore.
I think they do, absolutely. Usually there's only one or two guys that have a real uncatchable one.
You know, Ronnie Reyes was doing that the other day. If it was a real game, it was 3 hit batters and a wild pitch. It was moving, but it was moving all over the place.
You know, he could stay with his fastball, get people out.
That's right.
How hard do you think Reyes would throw off a mound?
If he was taught, and the way he throws now, he kind of hops, skips, and jumps into it and throws it 100 miles an hour. But if he was taught, he'd be a 95-mile-an-hour guy easily.
The trouble with when you've got a great arm and you get in the mound, you tend to want to rush. Yeah. When you rush, you lose all your velocity. And so Ronnie's correct. If someone taught Jose how to just keep it all together and take your time, that ball would just explode out of his hand.
Duda lined out to short his first time up. Getting his first shot as a number 3 hitter with David Wright moved down to the cleanup spot. Mets haven't gotten anything working against Volstead yet. He's given up just 1 infield hit. And no Met has hit the ball out of the infield. Now he's run his first 3-ball count of the night. And he walks Duda. So there's the first walk by Volstead. 1 out and 1 on. The inside pitch on Chris Volstead, brought to you by the Xerox Business of Baseball. Xerox, ready for real business.
Well, 2 seasons ago he gave up 29 home runs, and 21 this season. He hasn't been in the big leagues the whole time. That's tough for a guy who's supposed to have a sinking fastball. A guy who gets most of his outs should be getting it on the ground. And he's fighting for a spot here in August 31st to September to see if he can secure one of those 5 spots in the rotation for next year.
So here's Wright with 1 out and 1 on. David grounded out to third. A very close play at first base as Lopez threw him out from behind the bag.
Almost looks like, remember David when he came back got closer to the plate. It looks like he's pushed back a little bit. And I think that's probably an unconscious move. I think that's probably, where he's always hit. He's been further off the plate. It's his comfort level.
I remember how hot he was when he first came off the disabled list, that first road trip. It's been hot and cold for David since then. David, of course, missed 2 months with a back injury. There was news today on Ike Davis, and it's encouraging news. Ike, of course, has been out since the 2nd week in May. He did some more running the last 2 days, and the tentative plan right now is for Ike to meet the team when the Mets are in Florida early next week and do some baseball activities. Now, the Mets had said previously that a decision would be made on whether Ike would have surgery by Labor Day. Well, Monday is Labor Day, and it doesn't look as though that decision is going to be quite made yet. But the fact that they are progressing him toward, fielding some ground balls, taking some swings, seeing if he has any pain in the ankle, doing those things, certainly is encouraging toward the possibility that he will not need surgery.
Well, he's running without pain, so this is the next step in the rehab process. It's a big decision to be made here.
Well, the reason that they wanted to make a decision on potential surgery by Labor Day, as that breaking ball misses 3-2, is that they want to have him ready for next year. So they can't wait too much longer to make the call. But I think what they're looking to do now is to push it to the next step, see if they can get him past that hurdle without pain. And if they do, then maybe he'll be able to rehab without surgery. Duda at first with 1 out, 3-2 to right, not running, and David hits one deep to left field. Back goes Morrison, back near the wall, and it's off the fence. Duda pulls in at third, right with a long double.
Fastball right down the pipe. And David trying to lift it, the big uppercut. And it really just hits in the bottom half of the fence. It's just such a big ballpark. I got a little bit towards the end of the bat. That's at the 371 spot right there.
So David has his 18th double of the year. He's now 6 for 13 in this series, and the Mets have the tying runs in scoring position with 1 out for Angel Pregame. Randy St. Clair, the Marlins pitching coach, heads out for a chat with Volstead.
Well, a young pitcher like Volstead, Ronnie, I just felt, he looked so good the first 3 innings. It's a matter of time as the game progresses. I think if you can work the count on him, and I am not a proponent of working the count, but a pitcher like this, if you get a first ball fastball down with your liking, get it. But you can work the count on him, get 6-7 pitches. He's going to give you 2 or 3 to hit.
Here's your Mazda high-speed pitch tonight. Volstead's gotten it up to 94 miles an hour. Capuano at 89. A little shy of where he was in his last start, but Capuano's kept the Mets around, and now they've got a chance to do some damage against Volstead. Duda at third, right at second, and 1 out. Infield back for Florida, with the exception of Lopez, the third baseman. And Pregame takes a rip and fouls the fastball back. Angel grounded out to second base his first trip. Jason Bay on deck. Pregame hitting .315 with runners in scoring position this season. He has 47 RBIs. Other than Beltran, who's no longer a Met, you know who leads the Mets in RBIs?
We do.
Daniel Murphy.
Can you believe that?
49. By the way, our best wishes to Murph, who's rehabbing that knee injury. Been a lot of talk about Murph these last couple of weeks about where he's going to fit next year. Pregame taps one back to the mound. The runners will have to hold. And Volstead, it's dropped by Sanchez, and everybody's safe. Now, Volstead threw a bullet to first base, and Gabby Sanchez just didn't catch it.
E3 on your scorecard. We told you that Sanchez not really a first baseman. Made a lot of progress with his glove, but you got to catch that ball. That's a big clank. You just don't drop that.
So give an assist to the pitcher, an error to the first baseman, and the bases are loaded with 1 out. Chance for Jason Bay, who had an infield hit his first time up, to snap an 0 for 17. Infield at double play depth, and Bay lays off ball 1. So a walk, a double, and an error, loading the bases for New York. Low pitch count for Volstead, who sailed through the first 3 innings. Bay's infield hit was the only blemish. Duda walked. He's at third. Wright doubled. He's at second. And Pagan reaching on the air on at first. Bay hitting just 182 this year with runners in scoring position. Chases a bad pitch, and it's 1-2.
Well, he swung at 2 bad pitches. And then to me, it's pitch recognition and it's pressing with men on base. Jason just 20 for 110 on the year with runners in scoring position.
1-2, and he goes down swinging. So Bay is a strikeout victim, the 4th of the night for Volstead, 2 out of the inning.
Well, to me, this is just pressing. We talked about it in the open, guys, and going up there and just squeezing that bat tight and just trying to make something happen.
But when you talk about pitch identification, Keith, I mean, is that just a matter of being able to see that dot on the ball when you're trying to pick up the slider?
Everything speeds up when you're going bad. And when you're going good, everything's in slow motion. And you make cold calculated decisions in a split second when that takes that ball, when it leaves the pitcher's hand, to when you make your decision to swing. When you're going bad, everything is going 150 miles an hour. And thus you're out in front and you're jumping, and that's what happened with Jason.
So it's left to Nick Evans with the bases loaded and 2 out. And he fouls one off Buck and back, and it's 0-2.
I mean, not to belabor a point, at this point of the 2 years that he's been here in this season, Jason, he's up there trying. He's feeling the heat. His confidence has got to be shaken. And I feel for him because I've been there towards the end of my career, and you lose your confidence and everything speeds up.
Trickles away from Buck, but not far away for Duda to make a move. Volstead threw 31 pitches in the first 3 innings. He's already thrown 25 in this inning. Josh Coley would be next. But right now it's in Evans' hands to try and get the Mets on the board here in the 4th. Toward the hole, Bonifacio runs around it, and his throw is not handled, and a run is in. Infante couldn't pick up the one-hop toss from Bonifacio. Otherwise, they would have had the force on Pagan. Instead, Duda scores, and it's now 2-1.
Well, people playing out of position. Bonifacio not a shortstop. And just the Marlins defense front and center here in this inning.
Very unusual for a shortstop to run around that and then try to throw the ball overhand at second base. That's usually one that they throw from the side. It's quicker.
They're going to give Evans credit for an infield hit. Not sure why.
I agree with it.
He'll get an RBI. Yeah,
I agree with it.
There's Tolley with the bases still loaded. He hits it sharply, but Infante has it on the back end, and his throw is true. Sanchez catches it, and the inning is over. Mets scratch out a run and trail 2-1. museum and Hall of Fame. There's a Hall of Fame plaque, the Mets Hall of Fame. What do you think of the likeness?
I'm very proud of that. That's not for one of your baseball cards, isn't it? That
I think it's one of the pictures they take, the headshots in spring training every year.
Okay. Looks nice.
You hang there proudly.
Very happy to be there, and when I'm long gone, I'm still here haunting.
Haunting?
What kind of ghost will you be? A friendly ghost?
The ghost and Mrs.
Muir.
Mrs. Muir.
Yeah. Omar Infante leads off in the 5th inning. 2-1 Florida. Infante is 2 for 2. Single to left and a long double. Capuano deals a strike. Chris Capuano got off to a very shaky start in this game, but he's starting to settle in a little bit. He's had some help behind him. Nice play by Reyes to end the 1st inning. Good play by Tejada to end the 4th inning. Caught a break when Volstead couldn't score on a long double with 2 outs. So some things have gone right for him. Infante, Stanton, and Sanchez for the Marlins in the 5th. Florida in a stretch where they've lost 19 of their last 24 games. Their second such stretch of the year. Down to 3rd where Wright handles it, and the overhand throw again picked by Evans at first base. Been watching Nick before the games work on those picks at first, and he's gotten awfully good at them. Let's check in with Kevin Burkhardt. Kevin.
Hi guys, a couple things on Mike Stanton. First from Logan Morrison, who said, you know, we go out to eat. He eats more than anyone I've ever seen, and I get fat and he grows another ab. It's kind of hard to explain. Just asking about what he sees on a daily basis from him. But I was talking to hitting coach Eduardo Perez, who really glowed about him and about his work ethic, his desire. He said, you know, he signed and basically got here, but his work ethic was there. It wasn't just come up because he was a high draft pick and a raw talent. He really worked, and he has not stopped working since I've been here. And he said, you know, his desire is that of a superstar. I mean, he really thirsts to get better. We have conversations, and he's well thought. He's a great listener. I mean, we talk hitting all the time. So just glowing things to say about Stanton. Obviously, we see the big home runs. We see Oppo into the porch as we see Reyes' howitzer there, and he's retired 2 down. But, you know, I think from talking to him, you get the sense there's a lot more to that. There's a guy that really wants a lot more. The long, showy home runs in BP aren't all he's about, guys.
Well, ultimately, the players who transcend stardom are the guys who have that little extra edge to them. And we'll see how Stanton's career arc goes. He's only 21, which is hard to believe. There's Gabby Sanchez. Albert Pujols hit his 32nd home run tonight, now leads the National League home run race by 1 over Stanton. And you think about guys who have that edge, and Pujols is the first guy in the game you think of.
Giancarlo Cruz Michael Stanton. What a name.
Got to be a story there.
There you go.
Sanchez drills one to the left field corner. They might as well start every one of Sanchez's at bats against the Mets with the ball rolling around in the left field corner. So Gabby, the .370 against the Mets lifetime hitter, has his 29th double of the year. I mean, he wasn't hitting a lick coming into this series.
He was hitting on the interstate since the All-Star break quite some time ago.
Now 4 for 12 in this series. Here's Jose Lopez, who's had a good night with the bat. Singled in both runs in the 1st inning and then doubled off the wall in left field in the 3rd. So Jack McKeon putting Lopez in the lineup at 3rd base, sticking him in the 5th spot on the order, and that has paid off for him. By the way, speaking of home runs, Jose Bautista has his 39th tonight. Toronto's up 13-0 on Baltimore. Logan Morrison would be next. Capuano had retired 7 in a row before the Sanchez double. He's now given up 7 hits on the night, including 4 extra base hits. Two 2-0 now to Lopez, a guy who is very difficult to walk.
He's difficult to walk, but don't give in to him on this 2-0 count. Got a base open. Left-handed Morrison up next. He's a free swinger. He is going to swing the bat. Anything close.
I think Capuano expected him to swing it though. I mean, Lopez has walked 5 times this year in 191 at bats.
Going to walk him.
And now he'll get his 6th. So an intentional pass to Jose Lopez, who's had Capuano's number tonight, and instead will go after Morrison, who's been up twice and both times has flied out to center. Second walk for Capuano.
Although he's hit the ball pretty well, Morrison, both times to center field.
Well, you would have to think at 94 pitches now for Capuano that after the 122 in his last start, this might be his last inning. So he can go hard here after Morrison, and then due to lead off at the bottom of the 5th, that might be his night. And Morrison takes a slider for a strike.
Good one right there. That's the best slider he's thrown. That had a big break.
That slider was a big piece of his success against the Braves last Friday as Pedro Beato gets up in the bullpen.
Don't see a lot of home plate umpires today in today's game, Ron, that when a catcher asks for help, he had a lot of umpires, probably Frank Pulley, would just say, I don't need help. That was a ball. He didn't swing.
That's right. Now they always check.
Now they always check is right. Good pitch.
Got in on Morrison. That's 1-2.
Frank would do it by how loud he would say it. You know, he would say, you know, as loud as he could, no, he didn't go.
Right.
And you could tell by how loud it was that don't even ask to check.
What I liked about Frank Pulley is he would call the pitch a strike almost before it crossed the plate.
Yeah. Then he give you the right cross.
Right cross, exactly.
We love Frank.
Now to 1-2. Sharply, but right at Tejada. Makes the flip to Reyes. Inning over. Well, Jose Reyes accepting that feed from Tejada. Now Reyes will get a turn at bat. Mets down by a run as they come up in the bottom of the 5th. Willie Harris bats for Chris Capuano as we go to the bottom of the 5th. So Capuano done after 5 innings, and considering the way things started for Chris, this turned into an awfully good outing for him.
Looks like Lenny's got spats on.
Willie?
Jeez.
I've called him Lenny this year.
That's good. You know who that is? That comes from.
That's the all-time pinch hit leader. Lenny Harris, former Met. Two balls and a strike to Harris with Reyes and Tejada to follow. Mets have had just 3 hits and trail 2-1. Volstead gave up a run in the 4th, an unearned run, the result of Sanchez's error. Harris has been swinging the bat well the last week, but he did strike out as a pinch hitter last night. That's a 3-1 advantage here. And he bounces one down to Sanchez, who boots it. Makes the flip, though, in time. Well, Sanchez having himself a rough night, but he's able to recover.
Boy.
Now Jose Reyes. And that leads us to Keith Hernandez's train of thought. And the question tonight, Keith, I think is about, as we go through these final 29 games of the year, Terry Collins has talked about resting Reyes to try and protect the hamstring. I guess the question is, how much is enough and how much is too much?
Well, I can pull a Bullwinkle here and go, "Eeny, beeny, chili beanie, the spirits are about to speak."
You could do that, but I'm not sure that would serve anybody's purpose.
I would recommend against it.
Stanton and Cameron can't make the play. Reyes trying for 2, and he is in safely. Now Reyes placed it right. It banked off Cameron, and Reyes races into second.
Well, we've seen a lot of balls drop in front of this outfield. And you got a Gold Glover and Cameron right there, 38 years of age, can't run like he used to. And Reyes, one a day keeps the doctor away, and with his speed, that's a deuce.
27th double of the year for Reyes.
My Acela train of thought is Reyes should not play a day game after a night game. That's my feeling.
So Sunday in Washington, for instance,
sit him.
You keep him out of the lineup.
Absolutely, and have him as a strength off the bench late in the game.
Tying run at second with 1 out. Ruben Tejada, the batter. Would you like to add the caboose to Keith's train of thought?
I don't have any famous quip there that I can use. I just find the thing I find interesting is that I understand with the hamstring problems this year that you want to be careful here going down the stretch. But doesn't that make it interesting as Tejada grounds out? You know, you have a big off season where you're going to try to sign him to a huge contract, and part of your thought is how we're going to rest him at times. You know, he's averaged 134 games. We also saw him when he didn't miss a game.
4 straight years.
4 straight years. Unbelievable. But that has not been the trend the past few seasons. And that, I don't know, that's just, to me, an interesting part of how to decide how to move forward and how much you are going to contribute to moving forward.
And you're talking if you rest Reyes, and it gives you the chance to play both Turner and Tejada in a game. Turner plays second, Tejada plays short.
See, now Bullwinkle never would have come up with that.
Rocket J Squirrel.
Well, of course, you know, Tennessee Tuxedo would have suggested to go see Mr. Whoopi.
That's really I'm so glad you like cartoons like I do, Garrett.
You guys needed more company on Saturday mornings, I tell you that.
Dude is lined to short, walked and scored a run. And he lofts one into left. On comes Morrison, diving, rolls over and holds the ball. Wow. Nice play by Logan Morrison to keep the Mets from tying the game. Morrison going to his glove side, and that paid off for him. The sliding rollover grab to end the inning. Still 2-1 Florida. And you'll have access to exclusive New York sports content, including up-to-the-minute sports news and original video. Visit Facebook and like SNY today. Here's your Russell's sixth inning recap. Chris Capuano gave up 2 in the first, but nothing after that, so his work is done for the night. Mets were able to scratch back for a run with an infield hit by Nick Evans with the bases loaded in the 4th. Now the Mets go to the bullpen in the 6th with Pedro Beato.
Huge role here for Pedro. His last outing against Florida in game 2. He got 2 quick outs and then a 4-pitch walk to Logan Morrison. He was immediately pulled for replaced by Manny Acosta. Need him to go multiple innings here.
Mike Cameron is 0 for 2. Reyes made a very nice play to end the first inning on Cameron with a runner at third base to save a run. It'll be Cameron, Buck, and Volstead, the lower third of the order for Florida. Ball and a strike to Cameron. So Capuano went 5 innings, allowed 2 runs, 7 hits, 2 walks, 1 intentional, 4 strikeouts, 99 pitches in 5 innings. You know, you mentioned, Ronnie, Beato's last outing when he got pulled after 2 outs and a 4-pitch walk, and it was almost as though Terry Collins was sending a message as Cameron lifts one out to center, and Pagan has plenty of room. 1 out. And you wonder, as a young pitcher, how that message gets absorbed and translated into actions.
You know, I think that the message was, and I think as a player you can appreciate this the next day. Probably not when he pulls you out. You're a little embarrassed that with a quick hook. But I think the next day what your manager is telling you, I expect more from you. I expect better from you. When I don't get it, you're not going to be in the ball game. And I think you know, the only way to react for this for Pedro, because he has outstanding stuff, I believe. He's got 4 pitches. Is that it should be a positive thing. Yeah, he took you out 2 days ago, but now you're right back in a big situation where you need to put up some zeros to allow your team a comeback.
And really, when you talk about a situation like that, what you're really talking about is keeping your concentration.
Yeah, well, I mean, a walk will happen, but not on 4 pitches. And I think that's right. He got those 2 big outs, and then he walked the hitter, and Stanton was coming up, and Terry couldn't take a chance.
Buck slams one to short, right at Reyes. And quickly there are 2 out. Let's check in with Chris Carlin. He's standing by with the New York State Smokers Quit Line Game Break. How old is Derek Lowe? 37, 38?
Yeah.
How many guys hit their first career home run when they're that old? I mean, it's a big guy. You figured he would have hit one somewhere along the line.
I don't know. I've seen that swing. I'm surprised he's got it tonight.
Well, it's like I always tell you, Pelfrey eventually is going to run into one.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I hope it doesn't take him till he's Derek Lowe's age. Volstead up for the 3rd time, and he takes a strike, 0-2. Volstead has a single and a ground out.
Maybe Hojo will hit one here pretty soon.
That's right. Hojo's going back to playing with his son Glenn for a team in the Can-Am League. That's a nice thing.
Yeah, they're just going to play for 1 day, and Hojo, they said he's going to play first base. And Hojo said he just wants to make contact if he can.
One-two from Beato, and Volstead takes it, and it looked like strike 3, but not to Field and Colbreth, and so Beato has to throw another pitch.
Pitcher up. Boy, oh boy. Anything close, you got a ring, don't you?
Yep.
Oh boy.
So that one down the middle takes care of Volstead to end the inning. So Beato able to seal the deal with a 1-2-3 inning. 2-1 Florida in the 6th. The Mets had 5 pitchers win 10 games. Who were they? 10-game winners for the National League champion 2000 New York Mets. Chris Volstead working with a 2-1 lead as we go to the bottom of the 6th. David Wright will lead off for New York. David doubled off the wall in left field in the 4th inning. Saw some interesting numbers that the Elias Sports Bureau put together last night in the wake of Mike Stanton's home run into the Pepsi porch. The last 5 years of Shea Stadium's existence, the yearly average of opposite field home runs at Shea was 21. So average of 21 a year the last 5 years that the ballpark was up. In 3 seasons at Citi Field, there have been a total of 25. So, you know, if you extrapolate to the rest of the season, maybe about 9 per year instead of 21. So that's an enormous difference. And as you might expect, a guy who's been affected by that is David Wright. David has hit 5 opposite field home runs in this ballpark. That's in 184 games. At Shea, he hit 22 home runs to the opposite field in 350 games, which is less than twice as many, and yet he had more than 4 times as many opposite field home runs.
So you're getting half the production home run style to the opposite field by David Wright in this ballpark.
So yeah, I mean, so people talk about, you know, the big wall in left, and certainly that's had an impact on Wright as it has on Bay in terms of their home run production. But for David, whose natural power is to right center, maybe even more so. Drives this one deep to left center. Back goes Cameron, back near the wall, and it's off the fence. Another double off the Great Wall of Flushing for David Wright. And you can see the happy but just disgusted look on his face as he pulls it at second base.
For the love of home run, huh?
I mean, that ties the game in just about any other ballpark in the league.
Yep.
But not here.
And notice him running. He knows now. He's been here long enough not to take anything for granted. It's just,
you see that last little step and that look of just beleaguerment, like, no, not again.
You gotta be kidding me.
that look.
So the tying run at second, Angel Pagan the batter.
Well, the IOTV pitch differential, ball's up, fastball. There's your difference. Belt high instead of knee high. I think David would have covered that knee high. It was all over that ball.
Pagan is 0 for 2, reached on the air by Sanchez's last time up, and bounces one to the right side. That'll be productive. Infante with a little hot dog move there gets the out as Wright moves over to third. Boy, wow. I'll tell you what, you do that and drop the ball, you might as well just take yourself right out of the game.
Well, Jack McKeon would not have any of that.
So now Jason Bay with another chance to drive in a run. He came up with the bases loaded and 1 out of the 4th and struck out. Now comes up with the tying run at third and 1 out, and the infield will come in. And Jason takes a strike. You see the numbers on Bay, driving in a runner from third with less than 2 out. That was coming into the day, so now it's 13 for 30, which is not good at all. Right at third with 1 out. Volstead quickly up on Bay, 0-2. Off the pitcher and into right field, and the Mets tie the game. Bay with a bank shot to bring in Wright, and it's 2-2. So Jason Bay comes through.
Well, good for Jason here, and Infante has it covered. he makes that play. Huh? It's about time Bay got a break.
Yeah.
Huh? Well, sometimes if you're 6'8", it's hard to reach down for those balls. And Volstead couldn't make the play.
And Volstead had the pitch to waste too.
Meanwhile, R.A. Dickey giving David Wright a jab about that 395-foot double that he just hit. Randy St. Clair out to the mound to talk to Volstead before he pitches to Nick Evans. The bullpen starts up for Florida. So the Mets were down 2-0 before they came to bat in this game, and they have finally been able to battle back even. Volstead's pitch count still very low in this game. He's thrown only 77 pitches. But he's been a lot more vulnerable second and third time through the batting order.
His problem is as he goes through the order, that ball elevates. You saw the first 3 or 4 innings. No pitch above the knee, many now.
Ryan Webb up in the bullpen for Florida. Evans had an infield hit to drive in a run in the 4th inning. Ball that Bonifacio fielded and threw on a bounce to second that Infante did not handle, and Evans got credit for a hit.
Well, that takes Mr. Capuano off the hook very nicely.
Manny Acosta up in the bullpen. There's a strike, 1-1. Evans 5 hits and 14 at bats in this series, making the most of his opportunity to play. Jason Bay with 2 hits tonight. First time in nearly 3 weeks he's had 2 hits in a game. August 12th the last time. Had the infield hit in the 2nd, and now the RBI hit off the pitcher's leg here in the 6th. One to Evans. 2 balls and a strike now, with Josh Tolley waiting on deck. Runner goes. Evans bounces one to short. Bonifacio has to go to first with it. That's the 2nd out of the inning, and Bay is safe at 2nd. The Mets play a little hit and run there. And now Tolley will try and pick up that lead run from second base. Ronnie Polino has come out on deck to pinch hit if Tolley gets aboard. So let's see how the Marlins choose to handle it, with the left-hand hitter Tolley at the plate and the right-hand hitting Polino on deck. And they're going to walk Josh. So Tolley, who's grounded out twice today against Volstead, will get the intentional pass here, and Polino will get the opportunity to get the lead run home. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that it's got to be McKeon just wanting the Mets to use their player Paulino here, because Volstead has handled Tolley the first 2 times up.
And the thing that McKeon knows that we know also is that if Paulino gets on, you have to run for him. Yeah. So you've got the pitcher out of the game after Beato went a scoreless inning, and you burned 1 and potentially 2 players off the Mets bench in the 6th inning.
It's a good move as far as depleting a bench. But Paulino right now I think is a tougher out than Tolley.
So Ronnie gets the pinch hitting chance. Wasn't getting a lot of pinch hitting opportunities, but now with the Mets carrying 3 catchers, they can do that more. He's just 1 for 11 as a pinch hitter this year. So Volstead with a big out to get. After the Mets tied the game here in the 6th, 2 out and 2 on for Paulino. Ronnie hitting at .287 on the year. Bay is at second, Tolle at first with 2 out. And back to the mound. Volstead makes the play on Paulino, and the inning is over. But the Mets tie it. Down 2-1 as they came to bat in the 6th. David Wright hit one a mile off the wall in left center for a double. And Jason Bay chases him home. 2-2 after 6 at Citi Field.
RBI single from Jason Bay, and we get a new pitcher here in the top of the 7th. Manny Acosta on now in a tie game. We're 2-2 here at Citi Field. Well, talked to Daniel Murphy today and asked how his rehab is going. It's been about 3 weeks since he hurt his knee on that slide attempt, or I should say on the steal attempt when he was covering second base. And he said things are going well. It's interesting, guys. He has this brace on his knee. It has like a dial on it. And the doctors can kind of tell him day by day the dial goes on degrees, and it allows the leg to open up a little bit more and allows that MCL to kind of flex a little bit more. So he's doing well. In rehab, actually, he doesn't wear the brace anymore, and he's not walking with crutches anymore. So that's a good thing. Rehab is basic. He does things like body weight squats where he's just without the brace squatting down, where he's almost in a sitting type position and then moving back up. Does things with cones. It's just basic stuff, but he's doing well. So the next step is on the elliptical. And I said, now really what's the next step after that in terms of baseball? Winter ball, Mets plans. There's going to be no winter ball. And I said, have you been told anything about what the Mets expect next year? And he said, no. And honestly, once I get to baseball type activities, then I'll ask. But right now I'm just worried about getting the knee better. It is going well. And guys, that's a huge question the Mets have to figure out themselves. And you would think that after what he has been bounced around from position to position to position, you would think it would behoove them if they make a call and say, hey, come January, this is what you're doing, get to work. We'll see. Back to you.
I don't think there's any way at this point the Mets can have any idea what Murphy's role is going to be next year.
Agreed.
I mean, it's going to depend on the makeup of the rest of the team. Now, I saw an idea floated in the Daily News today about moving Jason Bay to center. This is assuming, I guess, that they don't tender Pagano a contract, that you move Bay to center, play Murphy in left and Duda in right. Not in a million years could you have an outfield like that. You'd lose every game.
Yep. Well,
you'd lead the league in giving up extra base hits. Ground ball right at Tejada, and Bonifacio's retired. But you know what I mean? Where Murphy plays, whether it's second, first, left, bat off the bench, I think is going to totally depend on the makeup of the rest of the team.
Well, I agree. So there's tons of decisions that have to be made. Angel Pagan is one in center field. If Angel's on the team, Jason Bay certainly is not going to be playing any center field. Can Jason Bay play center field in an emergency? Of course he can.
But it depends who your corner outfielders are. If Jason is your center fielder, you better have Kevin McReynolds in left and
Carlos Gonzalez in right.
Exactly. Infante gives one a ride foul. Especially in this ballpark. I mean, you couldn't play an outfield of Murphy, Bay, and Duda at Wrigley Field, and you're certainly not going to play it here.
Well, and also you have to look at the makeup of your pitching staff. It's been a fly ball pitching staff this season. If you have everyone comes in and throws ground balls, it might be a different thing.
Infante 2 for 3 tonight as Acosta deals wide 1-1. And I don't know what the answer is with Murphy. I know that he's a terrific hitter, and he had a really, really good year this year. But that probably the most safe place to play him is at first base. But presumably the Mets are covered at first base next year.
So he's one of those left-hand hitters that gets up from 300 times a year. You put him in there when you rest people, you let him play, and he's also proven he's a heck of a pinch hitter.
He is. Now there's another possibility, which is that the Mets get Murphy healthy and then shop him to an American League team where he can DH half the time and they can spot him at some other places.
I think it's always difficult to shop someone in the winter coming off a major injury like he's come off of.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You got to get him healthy first, get him in spring training, show that he can play.
I got you.
But if you have to wait, as Infante drives one down the left field line, foul. If you wait till spring training to show that he's healthy, that affects how you are able to make plans for the rest of your team.
Look at it this way. If you have Murphy on the bench, that means you got a pretty solid team on the field.
You just took the words out of my mouth there, that you got to also plan, and we're all so focused on who the starting 8 are going to be. The key to a good ball club is how deep they are in their depth.
Well, here's how I see it. The best role that Murphy could have, the best thing that could happen to the Mets is if they can re-sign Reyes and Davis comes back healthy. My personal choice at that point would be to play Tejada at second, and you've got a great bench now with Turner and Murphy sitting on the bench.
I totally agree, and we've seen this year that injuries do creep up, and Murph's a guy who can play for 2-3 weeks at many positions.
Check swing, and Infante did not go around. Mike Estabrook with the call, and that's a 1-out walk. So Infante is aboard for the 3rd time. Close call.
Boy, oh boy, I was shocked he wasn't rung up here. It's almost become automatic today.
It's interesting how he pulled that bat back. Almost like he pulled the butt end of the bat back into his belly to keep it from snapping through the zone.
Well, what I've seen of Acosta right now is a lot of hanging breaking balls upstairs, and he better not do it to this guy who's a high ball hitter, Mike Stanton.
Well, his last appearance, Acosta was outstanding. That game through the doubleheader, got 4 outs, 3 by strikeout, and he came in to face Stanton. It was his first hitter.
And of course he drilled him, hit him high on the shoulder, almost hit him in the ear flap. There have been no repercussions from that in this series. Stanton 0 for 3 tonight. Capuano handled him very nicely, keeping the ball away from him. And there's a fastball for a strike, 1-1.
He remembers, I'll tell you that.
Infante doesn't steal a whole lot of bases, just 3 this year. And you don't want to run yourself out of an inning when you got that big guy standing at the plate. And Acosta gets ahead on Stanton, 1-2. Gabby Sanchez waiting on deck. Now the 1-2. Breaking ball, strike 3 call. Acosta freezes Stanton, 2 out.
Nope. Right there, good pitch. See the front side buckle a little for Stanton.
So 2 out. Another hurdle for Acosta as Met killer Gabby Sanchez weighs in. Sanchez tonight has walked, lined out to right, and ripped a double to left.
That sounded like that Howie.
Very few could get up here.
Howie knows how to duck.
He does? Okay.
Wayne, I don't know.
He might try to catch it.
He might try. He's very enthusiastic. Here's the 0-1 to Sanchez, and it's low and away. A ball and a strike. Well, we've never had a ball in the booth here.
Not yet.
And I can't imagine we ever will. Just the way we're tucked back. You got the high screen, got a little overhang in front of us, a little, tucked back into a little alcove behind the plate. So if one comes in here, it has to be perfect in terms of its trajectory. Hit sharply, and Sanchez has another hit. Well, it's a victory. It's only a single. It's amazing.
It is.
It's just amazing.
It is. It's coming in here just in an awful slump since the All-Star break. And it doesn't matter. Like I said yesterday, blue and orange.
So 2 out and 2 on. Jose Lopez, who's had a big night, will come to bat against Acosta. Lopez singled in both Marlins runs back in the first, then he doubled in the third, was intentionally walked in the fifth.
Well, the Marlins have had some opportunities to really be well ahead in this game, and they just can't get that 2-out hit.
Lopez got the start against the left-hander, now facing the right-hander for the first time tonight. And he lines one to Tejada, side retired. Soft liner from Lopez, and Acosta gets his way through the top of the 7th. Stretch time, Reyes set to lead off the bottom of the inning, tied at 2. One with Jets rookie defensive lineman Muhammad Wilkerson, plus get an in-depth preview of the Jets 2011 regular season on Jets Nation Inside Camp Sunday at 7 p.m. only on SNY. Jets play on 2 days rest tomorrow night.
2 days rest.
Jose Reyes leads off the home seventh. Volstead has gone all the way. He's still out there chugging. Reyes had a bloop double in the fifth inning, 1 for 3. One of 6 hits for the Mets tonight. And Volstead misses low at 2-0. Reyes with his 1 for 3 is at .335 for the year. Ryan Braun is 2 for 2 tonight. He's at .334. Brewers, though, are trailing the Cardinals in that game 6-3 in the fourth. And Reyes taking all the way, and it's 3-0.
It's going to take .340, Gary, to win that title.
And I think Volstead is at the end of his rope here. Not that he's tired, but find out when games are close late, you got a guy up like Reyes. If he walks them, that's not a good sign.
Mike Dunn, the lone lefty in that Marlins pen, and Reyes takes a strike 3-2.
You know, I know it's late in the game. It's 3-1 count. I want Reyes hitting 3-1. I want him swinging the bat.
Hitting 3-2, bounces one toward the middle, and it sneaks through as Infante and Bonifacio couldn't communicate. I mean, they might not have thrown him out anyway, but that's Alphonse and Gaston right there.
That's the shortstop's ball, Bonifacio. He's got to come and get that and call it. He's got the momentum carrying him to first base.
He's the only person that has a chance to make the play.
So Marlins defense has just been atrocious tonight.
So we talked about how they've limited and lowered their errors. Doesn't mean they're a better fielding team.
Meanwhile, Reyes has his 51st multi-hit game of the year and regains the National League lead in that category despite all the time he's missed. And that gets his batting average up to .336. We'll be following that for the next 4 weeks.
Fantastic. Yes, we will.
Here's Tejada. Let's see if he's asked to bunt. He's showing it. Reyes stole a base in the game last night.
It's against the book. Wouldn't you love to see a hit and run right here after he just faked the bunt early?
Yes, I would.
Jason Isringhausen starting to throw in the Mets bullpen. Hoping will have a lead to work with in the eighth. Set it up for Parnell in the ninth. Nice bunt by Tejada. And Sanchez makes the play to Infante. 3-4 on the sacrifice, moving Reyes to second.
Well, these are the things that Terry Collins talks about. Just so sound fundamentally. You can't have a better approach there to bunting. Catches the ball with the bat, and that's a perfect placement of that bunt.
That's going to be all for Volstead. Jack McKeon is on his way out. He's going to make a double switch, and he'll bring in the lefty Dunn for the third straight day to face Lucas Duda. Dunn's gotten the best of Duda the first 2 times. Lucas will try and get one for his own. Call to the bullpen brought to you by Lincoln. Double switch for the Marlins. Greg Dobbs comes in to play third base. He'll bat ninth. And for the third straight day, Mike Dunn's assignment is to get out Lucas Duda.
You know what's interesting, Gary, and you mentioning that, Mike Dunn has primarily used just the fastball against Lucas Duda. We'll see if he changes that up third time around.
This Volstead went 6 in the third, allowed 7 hits. Only 2 runs so far and only 1 earned. He can't win this game, though, but he could lose. Reyes' his responsibility at second. 94 pitches for Volstead tonight. Duda, a very rough 0 for 2. He lined out to short in the first, walked and scored in the fourth, and then Morrison made a terrific play on his sinking line drive in the fifth. So 0 for 2 in the box score, but a much better executed night for Duda, who's trying to pick up the lead run from second base. Mets are 2 for 9 with runners in scoring position tonight. And of course, Reyes would love to steal third. So Bonifacio keeping an eye on him.
Good slider. Wow. Third time in a row. Fastballs. The first couple of times he comes out and changes the game plan. First pitch slider.
Mike Dunn, who came over from the Braves in the Dan Uggla deal along with Infante.
Reyes with hardly any lead.
And another slider and another good one. It's 0-2. So, Ronnie, you were talking about him changing the game plan. He's done just that. David Wright on deck.
Hard throwers, though, don't like to. He's going to throw one hard fastball in here. He'll try to paint away.
Duda staying in the at bat. Keith, what's your game plan here if you're Duda behind in the count in this spot, trying to get that run in from second?
You choke up and you just got to bear down. Garrett, you got to look fastball and you got to protect the plate. Go up the middle and try to fight off inside because it's a hard thrower. If he gets that ball over the plate, hit a line drive at the middle.
Too high with the fastball, 1-2.
Even if it's a right-hander, Gary, you're behind 0-2. You got to just get up there and protect. And late in the game, you have a base hit and put your team ahead.
Reyes not getting very far off the bag at all. Duda fights off another slider. Nice.
Mr. Lieberman got a nice baseball.
Those kids know someone.
Exactly.
In the front row. 1-2 to Duda. He lays off the slider. This is a quality turn at bat developing for Lucas Duda.
Well, Lucas stays in on lefties, and I like that. And he has a good eye at the plate. So a big, strong kid who can hit some home runs. He can, but get in the hole, not shorten up, but get more compact. This is not a home run situation here when you're behind the count, working the count.
7th pitch of the at bat from Dunn to Duda, and it's wide, ball 3. David Wright, who has swung the bat well tonight, waiting for his turn. Randy St. Clair and Jack McKeon contemplating if Dunn will get right or if they'll bring in a right-hander to face David. Depends what Duda does here. Volstead, an interested observer. That's his man at second base, Reyes. Now the 3-2. And Duda cracks one into center for a base hit. Here comes Reyes around third. Cameron's throw to the plate is offline. The Mets take the lead, and Duda pulls in at second. 3-2 New York. What a turn at bat for Lucas Duda.
Al, double that. You're absolutely right, Gare. Terrific. 0-2 count. Worked it to 2-2. Dunn just did not want it. Once come inside. Stayed away, and to Duda's credit, he stayed in. And that is big time right there. And he also very wisely on the bad throw advances to second base. You have a hard time throwing out that guy.
Now they'll walk right intentionally and go after Pagan with 2 on. David already has a pair of doubles and has scored a run. You know, it's an at-bat like that that makes you look at Lucas Duda and say, you know, he's big and he's strong and he's going to hit some home runs, but he's also a hitter.
He is a hitter, and also he's got some fight in him, you know, to battle back.
Watch him stay in. Even though he's a little bit out in front, he kept his hands back, his shoulders in, front shoulder in.
And clutch, you know, clutch hit.
Well, he has had some of those. I mean, 2-out home runs in the 9th inning to tie a game. I mean, he has shown that he is not coward in big spots.
There's your IOTV and your Coors Light freeze cam. 2 for the price of 1 there, right on the screws. Very nice.
So Duda drives in the go-ahead run. The Mets lead for the first time tonight. Now 1 out of 2 on for Pagan, who's 0 for 3 in this game and just 1 for 15 in this series. Now Reyes with the leadoff hit. Sacrificed to second on a perfect bunt by Tejada, and that set the stage for Duda's battle with Dunn. Now Pagan trying to add to the Met lead. It's been a year right-handed for Pagan. Early in the season he couldn't buy a hit right-handed. Then he went on a torrid stretch after he came back from the disabled list. And lately it's been fits and starts for him.
He's had some tough at bats though in this game left-handed, so turn it around.
And see the numbers. The batting average almost the same, but all his power has come left-handed this year. It seemed as though when Angel had his hottest streak this year, Mets were facing a ton of left-handed pitching, and he was getting a passel of hits right-handed. Well, Mike Dunn brought in to face Duda, beat him 2 nights in a row, but not tonight. Tight to Pagan with the fastball, and it's 2-1. This run belongs to Manny Acosta, who worked around trouble in the top of the inning. He's now pitcher of record on the long side. The run in this inning charged to Volstead, so he is now on the hook. Volstead allows 3 runs, only 2 of them earned over 6 1/3. In danger of his 4th straight loss. Line to short, caught by Bonifacio for the unassisted double play. Side retired. Duda is doubled off, but it's his hit that puts the Mets in front for the first time tonight. Battling back from 0-2 and poking a base hit to center. 3-2 New York as we go to the 8th. 5 Met pitchers in 2000 who won 10 or more. Well, you know Mike Hampton and Al Leiter, Rick Reed, but
Bobby Jones.
You might not have gotten Glendon Rush.
Wow, that's a good one.
Glendon did a great job that year, both starting and doing some relieving as well. Left-hander who worked fast. We like that. Jason Isringhausen comes in to try and protect a 1-run lead in the 8th.
Well, let's hope Izzy can work quickly through this 8th inning. His last out in game 1 struck out the side in his inning of work.
Logan Morrison leads off in the 8th inning and takes one that almost hits his knee. He gets out of the way for ball 1. By the way, did we mention that the '86 Mets had 6 guys who won in double digits?
Yes. Yeah, because Roger had 14 out of the pen.
Right.
Vulture.
Morrison gets under one, shallow right. And Duda is there. 1 out. Let's check in with the studio. Chris Carlin is there with the New York State Smokers Quit Line game break.
Wow.
How would you like to be Randy Wolf giving up that?
Ball flies out of there, doesn't it, Milwaukee?
No, and he hit it right down the line.
Yeah.
So, they all count.
It's a bomb in the paper tomorrow.
Here's Mike Cameron, who's 0 for 3. And as he fires a fastball for a strike. Well, Chris Capuano gave up 2 runs in the first inning tonight and looked very much unlike the pitcher that he was on Friday night when he threw his gem. But he held the Marlins at bay for the next 4 innings. Got some good defense played behind him. Pedro Beato and Manny Acasi each contributing a scoreless inning. And the Mets able to battle back with a single run in the 4th, 1 in the 6th, and then 1 in the 7th on Duda's RBI hit. And now they've got a lead to protect in the 8th.
Now, when you are a starting pitcher, 34 to 35 starts a year, you are judged on not your A game. That's always going to be a good game. It's when you don't have your good stuff. Can you give your team a chance to win? Certainly Capuano did that tonight.
R.A. Dickey said something interesting the other night. He said, wins and losses for me is not the metric I'm interested in. It's wins and losses for the team on the day I pitch.
Yeah.
And, you know, in Capuano's case, Mets may get a win on a day when he'll get a no decision. Wright gets in front of it, makes the jumping grab, and throws out Cameron, 2 out. He'll do that sometimes. He'll go up with the hop.
Cushion the blow.
Yeah, it worked for him there.
I will tell you though, Gary, if you're a starting pitcher and when you look in the mirror and the question is, am I going to give my team the best chance to win today? And it's no, it's a really sorry day. It's a sad day.
But how do you know when those days are?
The line drives that fill the ballpark. That's what happens.
John Buck is 0 for 3 today. Struck out twice and grounded out. And as he throws the curveball for a strike. Greg Dobbs is hitting 9th in the order. He's on deck if Buck keeps the inning going. And another ground ball, right flashing to his left. Nice grab and the spin around throw to get Buck. Beautifully done by David Wright to end the inning. David with full extension going to his left. And then enough time to right himself and make the play on Buck. We go to the bottom of the 8th. It's 3-2 New York. tomorrow night. 40-year-old Miguel Batista makes his first Mets appearance. He'll get the start for the Mets. 6:30 the coverage tomorrow night on SNY. Clay Hensley will be on the other side for Florida. For Batista, his 10th different organization, and that doesn't count that he played for the Expos and for the Nationals.
That counts as one?
That counts as one.
Okay, I get
it's the same organization.
Well, Ryan Webb comes in the game. You see those 40 games, but he did go on the DL with right shoulder inflammation. Since he's come back, he is 1-0, has given up a run in 3 1/3 innings pitched.
Jason Bay drove in the tying run with a base hit off the leg of the pitcher Volstead in the 6th inning, and Bay is 2 for 3 today after starting the day with an 0 for 17 skid. Ryan Webb pitching in Flushing has a little pedigree here. His dad Hank pitched for the Mets. Parts of 6 different years. In fact, Hank was a starting pitcher for the Mets for about half of the 1975 season. Went 7-6 that year. But you know, the thing that Ryan's dad Hank was most famous for was a bad throw at 3:30 in the morning.
Trying to pick off Baker McBride.
25th inning, longest game in Mets history, and at the time was the longest game played to a decision in Major League history.
Wow.
Because it was a game back in 1919. Boston and Brooklyn played a 1-1 tie for 26, called because of darkness. But you know, in 1974 they had lights, so they were able to play those 25, and Keith remembers it well because he participated in that game.
Pinch hit in the 8th inning, and
Bay has his 3rd hit of the game. Cameron chasing into the gap, cuts it off very deep, and Bay easily to second base with a leadoff double. So an encouraging night for Jason Bay.
fastball away, went right with it. Very nice. And Cameron, look at this. This is a triple. And that's a heck of a play. That prevents a triple.
That hit right there has got to allow Bay to at least take a breath, huh?
Now Nick Evans, who drove in a run with an infield hit in the 4th. 1 for 3 on the night. You know, the Marlins look like they're playing for the sacrifice. I don't think you're bunting with Evans.
No, I don't think so.
Here's your Crow's Light freeze cam.
Well, he stays up, hits the ball right at the plate. And that's the difference.
It sure looks easy to hit with that freeze cam.
Boy, I wish I had that when I played.
Just glad the freeze cam has the entire frame to itself there. No other sponsor getting in the way.
At least 30 points on my average.
Sanchez continuing to play in very close at first. Now a back up with 2 strikes, but it's interesting the way the Marlins were looking for Evans to bunt.
And that's a bad play because Evans, in reality, is trying to hit the ball that way. Maybe not with 2 strikes, now fighting for your life, but.
There goes Bay, and it's hit to the right side. Infante will make the play. But Bay was taken off. Evans advances him with a ground out. And now Bay's in third with 1 out.
Well, no one holding him on. Why not? Webb wasn't paying any attention. Infante and Bonifacio fell asleep at the wheel. Take advantage.
So Josh Tolle will try and get an insurance run in. And the infield will come in for Florida. Tolle is 0 for 2 and an intentional walk. Now Jason Pridey has come out on deck to pinch hit.
And shouldn't take away from the outstanding at bat by Evans there, giving himself up.
There's Pridey to bat for Isringhausen, with Bobby Parnell getting ready to save it in the 9th. And Tolle takes a strike. Josh is 3 for 8 in this series. And he grounds one down to Sanchez. Bay running on contact. It's dropped by Buck. Bay missed the plate, and Buck tags him out. Bay came in head first. Buck had dropped the ball, but home plate umpire Field and Colbreth said Bay did not get the plate on the initial effort, and Buck recovered it and tagged him out.
Oh, he got pinned underneath with his hand. And he is out. Let's see. He's out. Oh boy, did he get him?
He's out.
Yeah, he's out. He tried to fight his. When he came back, he did not get the plate there. When he comes back, he tries to reach for the front of the plate, but never gets there.
Yeah, Buck got him on the back.
Yep, he's
no
tough.
question, he's out. I'm not sure what Bay is arguing. He certainly didn't get the plate on the first effort. Are they saying that Buck missed the tag?
Boy, you just don't want to go head first in a close play at home, too.
Well, Sanchez made a good throw. Buck dropped it, but good presence of mind to scramble after it.
Well, Buck does a good job of blocking the plate there. But his mistake was to try to tag before he had the ball.
I think the Mets are saying, I think Bay and Collins are saying that he missed that initial tag on the back, went back and tagged him a second time, but that Bay had touched the plate by that time. Now Pridey pinch hitting, pops it up to shallow left. Out goes Bonifacio, in comes Morrison, they collide, and the catch is made. Bonifacio has the ball. Morrison knocks him to the turf. All is well. Wow. We've seen some very interesting defense on behalf of the Marlins tonight. Atrocious. 3-2 Mets going to the ninth. By Cholula Hot Sauce. Want the perfect balance of flavor and heat? Add Cholula Hot Sauce to your next meal. Just look for the iconic wooden cap. By Mazda's Zoom Zoom. And by Pepsi Max Field of Dreams. You can play ball with MLB greats. Visit MLB.com/Pepsi Max to learn more. Bobby Parnell in to try and save it for New York.
2 of his last 3 appearances have resulted in saves for Bobby.
Greg Dobbs hitting 9th in the order, up for the first time in the game. And Dobbs immediately delivers a base hit. So Dobbs, who started the first 3 games of this series, wastes no time in his first at bat, and the tying run is aboard for Florida. And the Mets' failure to score that run in the bottom of the 8th looms very large right now. Now, do you bunt with Bonifacio? The book says that you play for the win on the road for the tie at home, as we'll get a pinch runner. Alfredo Amezaga running for Dobbs at first base.
Well, Gary, the only X factor in this is that even when he's bunting in the sacrifice situation, Bonifacio can still get a hit. That's how fast he is.
So that'll bring Wright well in at third base. Bonifacio 1 for 4 tonight, doubled and scored back in the first. Marlins have not scored since the first.
Very interesting.
And he fouls off the bunt attempt.
Oh, thank God he fouled it off. Remember in the second game, I believe, of the doubleheader, Bonifacio turned around to bunt in a sacrifice situation, not a sacrifice situation, to bunt for a base hit, and he bunted to the shortstop, Reyes, for the base hit.
Yep.
Wright is coming real hard. Parnell's going to come straight in. Be wary of that.
Because that was against Dylan G, who falls off to the first base side.
Jose should come straight in instead of right at the bag.
Totally out to talk to Parnell. Mets have gotten 3 innings of solid bullpen work tonight. Pedro Beato, a 1-2-3 6th. Acosta worked around a walk and a single in the 7th. And then Isringhausen with a 1-2-3 8th. Right after we're done here, be sure to keep it tuned for Chris Carlin and Bobby Ojeda. Lincoln postgame live right after the game right here on SNY. And Bonifacio pushes the bunt. Tolley hops on it and makes the play to Evans. Sacrifice 2-3. So again, you're going against the book if you're Jack McKeon, playing for the tying run in the top of the ninth.
I agree, and I'd let Bonifacio swing the bat myself, but Jack's down there in the dugout. He's playing for a tie here.
And the other half of that is that the Mets at the top of the batting order coming up in the bottom of the ninth.
Well, top of the batting order, but maybe Jack is saying that the Mets now have gone through because Capuano went 5. Beato, Acosta, Izzy, Parnell in the game now.
Also, it ensures a no double play, and it'll ensure Stanton getting up here.
Infante's had a good night. A single, a double, and a walk. He's 2 for 3. And the fastball at 97 from Parnell for a strike. Marlins just 2 for 10 with runners in scoring position tonight. Mike Stanton looming on deck. And Gabby Sanchez behind him. Infante has big numbers against Parnell. 6 for 13. But then Infante seems to have big numbers against every Mets pitcher.
That's right.
Lifetime 361 hitter against the Mets coming into the night. He's up that tonight.
Especially in this ballpark, too.
Yep. Trying for his 8th 3-hit game at Citi Field in this at bat.
Talk about the spacious confines that are perfect for a hitter.
Well, I think we also saw him hit a home run here, didn't we? 1-1 for Parnell. Hit toward the hole. Wright with a great diving stop, and he throws him out. David Wright with a highlight reel play in a huge spot for the second out of the ninth.
Well, terrific play right here from David. He has had a great night with the glove. And that is a run. Well, I don't know if it's a run save. I think Jose gets to it, but it's first and third with 1 out.
Well, Amezaga was holding up.
Yep.
He was not going.
Which is the proper play. Ball to his right. And that's 2 innings of great work by David defensively.
So now you've got Stanton coming up. You've got Sanchez on deck. And again, you talk about the book. The book says you don't put the go-ahead run on base, and the Mets will not. They'll pitch to Stanton. 2 out, top of the ninth. And Stanton cracks one up the middle on the backhand. Tejada throws him out, and the ball game is over. The Mets win it with defense. A game the Mets trailed 2-0 before they ever came to bat. Lucas Duda with the go-ahead hit in the 7th. David Wright with a huge defensive game, and Tejada with the one to finish it. And the Mets win 3-2.
You know, Terry Collins' bullpen has been much maligned, but outstanding this evening. 4 innings of work, no runs.
Well, it's been a long time since we've been up here to say that the defense was sparkling. And this was a day in the 9th inning, and it began here. Runner on second base, 1 out. Look at that play by Wright. And then the ender right here. Tejada up the middle. Nicely getting there, but the throw. So 2 sparkling plays to end it. Parnell with the save. And what a nice ball game. What a nice comfort behind win from the Metropolitans.
Boy, Tejada went a long way to get that ball, and a perfect throw to get Stanton. Parnell earns his 3rd save. Acosta gets the win in relief. And the Mets have taken 3 of 4 in this series from Florida, with 1 more to play tomorrow night. So the Mets have